Go for it.
Streams are heading that way. Let me confirm. Okay. Stream is running. Stream is running on both. We're good.
All right, we're rolling. Timer starts now. Mark. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Ford.
Well done. Helps when
Oh,
I
yeah, there's our
help you
faces.
out.
We should do our... Yeah,
Yes,
I can see my
okay.
face, but I couldn't see your face.
All right, go for it.
We'll get this after like 4 times. The 4th time is going to be the charm, I'm sure. Oh, all right. I'm Ford. This is the face of Ford.
Nope. I promise. There's graphics. And I'm Sky, and I can't push buttons today.
You know what? After this week, who could? Who could even? I just faceplant onto the keyboard and push H for like 3 minutes straight. Okay, anyway, Ford and Sky, they're not our real names. They're our superhero names. We are a writing partnership, and together we form Skyford. And welcome to Booklandia. We're going to talk about some books. Today, though, we're not talking about just one book. We're talking about like all the books. Prepare yourself. Like sit down, get comfortable, because we're going to just like blow through this episode. But before we do, if you want to get out your social medias and follow us, that would be amazing. On Twitter, we are at SkyfordL. On Instagram, we're l.skyford. If you are interested in any of our writing book information, we are lskyford.com. And if you want to watch our faces do this episode, instead of just hearing us, if you want to see the brilliance of the faces we make at each other, you can follow us on Twitch at lskyford or YouTube at l.skyford. And by God, that's all the social media. I mean, we're on Facebook too, but like, don't worry about it.
That is true that. This and every episode is chock full of spoilers. So you've been warned. Mm-hmm. We're about to spoil a bunch of stuff. It's also full of oversharing, sometimes personal oversharing. So you've also been warned about that in advance.
Yeah. Yes, this is rated E for explicit.
It is definitely rated E for explicit.
Not E for everyone.
I know that is confusing. Before we get into talking about all the books, so the goal of today's episode is year in review in books for us. But before we get into books, cheers. Appropriately timed.
You got a fancy fucking glass.
I do. I always do. Cheers. Oh my gosh, I have no idea how
Clink.
to do this. And you'd think after 9 months of being on digital media, we'd figure out how to clink. Yes, I did get a fancy glass. It is just a gin and tonic in the fancy glass, so I didn't really push hard. I didn't even get an olive because I couldn't trust myself to not lose it.
Look, we both work in theater. That's water, and I know it. That's a clear liquid, and it's water, and I know it. Okay, all right, fine. You have Tanqueray in a can.
I do. I have gin in a tin. It's my favorite.
Oh my God, that's clever. That's really clever, and I'm really mad I didn't think of it myself. So I'll be over here.
Fleabag. I didn't think of gin in a tin. Also, it's not really from Fleabag. It's what all of the UK calls gin in a tin. That's how you buy it at the store.
They're so fucking clever over there.
They are very clever. And then I was reminded of gin in a tin because I was watching Fleabag, and then I saw it at the store, and I was like, well, now I have to buy gin in a tin because obviously. So yeah, that's where that's at.
So I would be having an alcoholic beverage right now, except I got accidentally drunk last night on a White Russian, White Russian, because I was like, oh, look, I'm almost going to kill this Smirnoff. I just poured a little bit too much in there, and then I had to compensate with the Kahlua so it wasn't too tart. And that's how I ended up at midnight, accidentally drunk, doing a puzzle by myself. That's
that is
2020 for you.
right, a delightful way to finish a night. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was not bad. I mean, recommend? Sure.
There you go.
But also being drunk with other people also works.
Yes, I was gonna say also recommend for like next couple of days while we're all like at home, missing festivities, hanging out with your puzzle does not sound like a bad go. So I say recommend.
I promised my spouse that I would finish the puzzle before tonight because we're gonna do ham dinner tonight. This puzzle is hard. I'm not finishing it. So I had to be like, sorry, there's just gonna be a puzzle here in the middle of our Christmas dinner.
That seems okay too.
So that's me. That's me. I'm getting over my accidental hangover.
Accidental hangover. Well, unlike you, I am drinking. Though, you know, just enjoying a drink. That sounded like, and I'm drinking. That'll be later.
It's the year to drink, if anything. So I'm for it. I would never judge.
Yeah, it's fine. So my story, my check-in story for the day is yesterday I learned a term called pandemic brain, and I sort of scoffed at it. I was like, meh, we've been at pandemic for so long, we've totally got it. And then our tradition for Christmas is to make ninja breads, which are gingerbread men that are actually doing martial arts, so they are ninja breads, and so with gingerbread dough you're supposed to mix it one day and then you leave it overnight and then you actually shape it the following day. So I mixed the dough yesterday and I was like, and I made a half batch. So instead of following the recipe, I split the recipe in half and I did a half batch. And as I was mixing it, I was like, something is really not right. Like this does not look right consistency wise. It's too dry. So I added extra water to add more moisture. I was like, okay, maybe it's just me. I mean, it's been a year since I made gingerbread. I'm just gonna trust the recipe. I wrapped it in plastic wrap. I put it in the fridge. Today I rolled them out. It was still like cracking and dry, and it did not like it was just not behaving properly. We got through it. We shaped them. We put them in the oven. We got them out of the oven, and I was still. And then we tried them, and spousal reaction was take a bite, spit it out, get a face from me. And apologize for being rude about an inedible object. So I got an apology, which is awesome, and I very much appreciated that part. Like, genuinely, very much appreciated that there was like sorry, this was an inappropriate reaction, but they're super dry and they're super dusty, and then. Literally 12 hours after I made them, I was like, wait a second. I used my kitchen scale to make all of this, but the recipe is written in cups. And so I was like, well, a cup is 8 ounces, a half a cup is 4 ounces, which is true, except in flour, where a cup is 4.8 ounces, which I know today and also not yesterday. So pandemic brain happened.
I didn't know that today. I just know that weight and volume are different, and that in America all the recipes are in volume.
Yeah.
So I thought it might have been like a translating from another language into English kind of conversion issue, but
no,
look at you having a kitchen scale.
I have a kitchen scale, yes. Because I do have a lot of European recipes which call for grams, not cups. And so, it's a lot easier. I love my kitchen scale. Like, shout out to kitchen scales everywhere. I love my kitchen scale. It's super handy, except yesterday when I did mental math and I was like, oh, I just need... So I put in essentially twice as much flour as I should have. So they're super.
So you did a full batch of flour and a half batch of everything else.
Yes, that's precisely what happened. So we're still gonna keep them because Santa's got to eat something, is what I hear, and I'm not making more cookies. and I'm gonna try to make a really rich cream cheese icing, and ultimately
Yum.
there just might need to be a bin these cookies
Mm-hmm.
adventure, which
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
never do. I always try to save my bad bakes, but this might have gone one step too far. I mean, there was spitting it
Bummer.
out, so
But what did the kids think
they
of
haven't
the
tried it
flavor of the
yet.
cookies?
They
I
haven't tried
see.
it
Okay.
yet. They're waiting for icing. So
I see. Okay. All right. Well, good luck. I'm sure Santa will like them anyway. I think he's probably eaten quite a few mysterious cookies in his
I have no
journeys.
doubt. I have no doubt that
So,
Santa has encountered. Yeah, last night the conversation was, why does Santa like cookies anyways? Like, why can't,
oh,
does Santa like other things too? And I was really tempted to say tequila.
yeah. Well, I know some people leave out like carrot sticks, like a nice like charcuterie platter for
Oh, I
Santa.
thought
Like
the
Santa
carrot
is a
sticks were for the reindeer.
they are, but who doesn't also eat a carrot stick on the way to feeding them to the reindeer?
I
I do.
all of this is a little bit out of my realm of
I see.
adventures, but
Sure.
whatever they need,
Sure.
I guess in
Whatever they need.
in that regard. We're also on
Uh,
the brink of, is Santa a story that is
mm,
real, or is Santa real? And I'm very comfortable with them
uh,
um transitioning into Santa is a story, but some stories come
mm,
true, and I think that's a lovely place to live in.
mm-hmm.
Versus Santa is real, which is like right, like Santa is
Sure.
corporeal versus Santa is imaginary, but maybe becomes corporeal if you believe in them.
Yeah. Santa is maybe really studly. He's really hot, sexy Santa.
This is a segue that gives me a little bit of whiplash. Which, yeah, so this hot take: Santa is not hot, and that's just
Traditionally.
my 2 cents. Well, so recently I've been seeing a lot of advertising for like Santa erotica, essentially, and I
Yeah.
haven't gone down
I
that
feel like
path.
we've talked about this so much. I can't remember if we've talked about it in this space or not.
No,
Have we
no,
talked? Okay. Great.
it was outside of this space. But
It's book
yeah,
club.
so Santa erotica is something that does not appeal to me at all. Possibly
Mm.
because the Santa stereotype of like tall, broad, and bearded is not my type, or possibly because
Mm.
Santa is a jolly old grandpa, and grandpa is not my type. And like
No.
no judgment on anyone who is into it, but it just isn't something that I would seek out. But I was surprised at the influx of Santa erotica that is out there
Yeah.
that I was
Hot
unaware of.
Santa with abs. Hot abbed Santa. Um, I forget who, but somebody just came out. Maybe Adriana Herrera just came out with a Santa novella, but it's female female. So Santa is a female. Maybe it's not Adriana Herrera.
Oh, but now I'm gonna
Anyway, that's
interesting.
out
So
there. Yeah.
that's interesting. That's no, like these seem to be like straight up Mrs. Claus is out of the picture, and now
Mm. Single sexy Santa
just
looking for a sleigh rider.
oh no.
You're welcome, internet, for that idea. Um, if you're interested in sexy Santa, go out there and look yourself because we haven't done the research.
We have definitely not done the research on sexy Santa. That is
Yeah.
very true.
Shall we move into our topic du jour?
Yes, let's. I'm very excited about this, mostly because there are so many places. In fact, I think all of the categories are categories where we did not agree on, like, our favorite book
Yeah.
in each category was not the same one, which is great, which is fantastic. So to set it
But
up a
also,
little bit,
it feels kind of rare for us to be so dissimilar in all the categories.
Well, I feel like we like a lot, like, I don't disagree with your choices as being really great choices. They just weren't necessarily my top choice for something.
Okay.
So I think we like the same things, but we don't necessarily prioritize the same ones in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think it'd be a little bit without a conversation, right? Like, how could we have a
Right.
conversation for both? Like, this is exactly the same for both of us. Um,
Yeah.
so to set it up a little bit, we a friend of ours came up with categories for most everything or least everything throughout the year, and each one of us read a different number of books. So that the other thing I have to say about this list is there are instances in which I'd only read one book in that particular
Mm-hmm.
genre, and I wouldn't call it my favorite in that genre, so I actually didn't put it in.
Mm.
Versus being like, well, I only read this, like, I only read one memoir, so it's going to be my favorite memoir for the year. Or for me, that was the case with non-contemporary romance. I only read
Yeah.
one historical romance, and I didn't like it enough to be like, it's my favorite for non-contemporary romance for the year. So
Yeah.
it isn't there. And I also I see the one you put in there, and we'll get to it, but for me that
Yeah.
is actually fantasy
A
or
different.
science
Yeah.
fiction, and not
Yeah. But it's not
non-contemporary
contemporary
romance.
either.
It is definitely
We'll
not
get to it.
contemporary, but yeah, but it's I was thinking like just romance without any sort of um
Mm.
otherness, though now that I think of it, the one that I was thinking of has supernatural elements in it, so it still wouldn't have fit because there's a ghost.
Well, all right. So shout out to Jen who put together the list that we are basically stealing this from 1000%.
One thousand
So what
percent.
we're going to do, we're going to go through really quick. We're going to name a topic. We will each list our book in that topic, a quick why, and then we're going to move on. So get your pens and pencils ready in case you're interested in anything so you can jot it down, or like have your Goodreads open and you can just search and add them to your to read list. And then, great. Like, also, don't drop us a line. What did we forget? What was your favorite book in each category in the year? We're here for you. We want to know. Tell us everything. All right, you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Most.
Oh,
That's right. I got a good
that
drum
was
roll
good.
happening.
That was really good. Well done, you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Most stress relieving. Since we have a stress relief book club amongst our friends, what was your most stress relieving book of the year?
For me, take a hint. Danny Brown was most stress relieving.
Poor
I
Kay.
la- I laughed so hard at so many instances of what was happening and how that character was describing it. So, like, the way that Danny
Mm.
Brown was describing the situations that were occurring to her, both outside of the bedroom and in the bedroom, were spit take worthy for me. And so it was just a delight throughout, and I loved everything about it. And I can gush for a hot second about it. But what was yours?
Nice. The last book I read, I don't know. I think maybe because it left me with all these warm, fuzzy feelings, it's going to be How to Fail at Flirting, which I just happen to have sitting right here. Um, Super cute. Just like, I was just like grinning the whole time I was reading it. And the chemistry between the two characters was just very sweet and natural. And the drama was external drama. So I wasn't really too terribly worried about them as a couple. I was just worried about that external drama coming to fuck it up. So not so very stress relieving. I was just like, oh, this is cute.
Nice.
Yeah.
Least stress relieving for you.
All right. The book that made me want to kind of throw it across the room / vomit the most, because that's how I really quantify. If a book gives me a visceral stomach ache, that means it's pretty stressful. It would be Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, and it's got a lot of like fantasy elements, and the poor main character gets beat up like every other chapter, like she's fighting off some kind of ghost trying to attack her, but it made me realize that I might like suspense. I might like the genre of suspense, which I never would have considered for myself.
Ah. For me, I read Testaments by Margaret Atwood, which is
Mm,
the sequel to Handmaid's Tale. And like, even without reading that book is stressful, but reading
uh-huh.
that book, uh, just it is so relevant and it is so
Mm.
timely and it is so not okay in so many ways. And yeah, it did, I mean, it made me really stressed out because I'm constantly worried that that Atwood wrote future history, essentially, that she's
Yeah.
a foreteller of future truths, and
Yeah.
I hope that that is not the case.
Ugh.
Exactly.
Hard
See?
saying. That
Yeah.
that book was tough, but it was beautiful. But it was tough. You're
Yes.
right. You're right. All right. Favorite contemporary romance.
For me, it was Rafe, the buff male nanny, by Rebecca Weatherspoon, partially because
Uh-huh.
it was so out of left field. Like, I picked that book because it was like, this title is really ridiculous and this premise seems really ridiculous, and then it was fantastic and it completely
Mm.
blew my expectations right away. So that one. What about you?
All right. This one's gonna come up a lot in this list for me, but it's gonna be Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. That that book is just it stood out from the pack early on this year, and it it's been hard to top. Just a delight to read, uh, cute and clever, and political, like a political romance before politics became exhausting, essentially.
Yes, I read it last year. Otherwise, it would have made a lot of my top lists as well. I actually went back and double checked that I read it. I read it very late last year, not in the beginning of
Mm,
this year, so that's why it's not on the list for me.
bummer
But
sauce.
it's great. It is a great book, and
Yeah,
it really does stand out. So I agree.
yeah. So in non-contemporary romance, like this is, as we mentioned earlier, Where I Stand Alone, The Cheese Stands Alone, with Wraith Kings by Grace Draven. Again, you're right. This could be a fantasy. I think it's fantasy, not sci-fi, but romance. But it's definitely not contemporary.
Definitely
We
not.
don't read historicals or Regency romances at all, so I didn't really have much to contribute in this. And I really liked. We read 3 or 4 of her books this year, so it was noteworthy.
So so you guys read Eidolon and Radiance this year. I'd
Mm-hmm.
read those in 2017, so it's been a few years for me. So for me, Wraith Kings was a return to a world like 3 years later, and then everybody
Yeah,
else was sort of immediately stepping into that world.
sure.
So I am a huge fan of that series actually, and I am really excited that she can has continued it on. So I'm looking forward to more of the Wraith Kings. I think, is it not Epos Kings and it's the Wraith King
E-
series?
yes, that's yes. Wait, yes, you're correct. The Wraith King series, but yeah, Epos Kings is the book that came out this year. You're right. Thank you, librarian.
You're welcome.
All right. Paranormal romance. Where'd you land?
So in this I had a tough time figuring out what I liked very much. The one that you picked I liked very much as well. I put down The Beautiful by Renee Idier, and um it is I had some like holdups with that book, and the second in that series, that's a duology, and the second one came out, and I actually haven't read it yet. I haven't caught up to it yet, and I'm hoping that my like it wasn't perfect will be resolved in part two. It would also fit into historical. It's set in Louisiana, in New Orleans. Turn of the century, late 1800s. It's
Cool.
fascinating. It's got a bunch of different paranormal creatures that are part of it. So it's not just vampires or just werewolves. It's sort of every type of creature. And the idea is that all of these people and creatures arrive in New Orleans to find a new life in America. And so it's got a really interesting mix in it. And Adie for me is so good at she is so good at simile and metaphor. Her sentences are really descriptive, and so it gives a really rich world.
Nice. I went with the short story Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbert, which she is now at least writing one more book in this world, which I think she might be doing a series, which is fantastic. And it is a Halloween short story. So if you needed something at Halloween time, you can pick that up for next year. And it is about a werewolf and a werewolf hunter getting busy. So, excellent. Next topic, queer romance.
Okay, so I get to geek out a whole bunch here. So my choice here is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Also very Halloween-y because it deals with Dias de los Muertos, but it is a trans boy who meets a ghost that he's trying to essentially send to the afterlife. But he falls in love with this boy instead, and now he's trying to solve the mystery of how he died. And now we don't want him to go into the afterlife. And it's so rich with culture and this secret society of people and all of these Latinx expectations of malehood and what it means for this trans teenage boy to come out and be part of that culture and try to prove himself while also falling in love for the first time. And there's cemeteries that are full of marigolds, and it's so pretty and it's so good, and it's all the representation. And there's a vegan witch in it, and she doesn't want to perform spells because it requires animal blood, and she doesn't want to spill blood. And that side story was really cute to me as well, because she figured out her own path with it. So everything about this book, basically, if someone was like, what, right, like I was like, what is a very queer book that you read, this was it for me. This was like the coolest one. This was the most diverse, not just in terms of the queer stories told, but also in terms of the storyline laid out. So yes, Cemetery Boys, it's YA, and it's yes is all I got.
It's yes. It is definitely my number 2 of the year. But Red, White, and Royal Blue once again topped my list in this category. So I agree with everything you say, though, about that. That book was just delightful, and so much delicious cooking.
Yes.
So many delicious so much food. I can't. Sugar skulls. I was like, yes, put them all in my mouth. YA. So young adult.
Yeah, to me this is fascinating because I feel like in the past I've read a lot of YA. YA used to be my stress relief, and now hardcore romance is my stress relief, and YA is too softy for me. But there is still, we still read some YA. What was yours?
So I read Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. I very much wanted to call it a romance, but the romantic line in it isn't the main story. It's, a girl, a type A girl has to get a summer job. Like, she's trying to get a better grade on her final, and she has to convince her partner to do the project with her over the summer. And it's just very cute, and it's set in a Southern California beach town, and there's cute animals, and they ride their bikes everywhere. It was so quintessentially YA. She's got quirky friends. She's got her family. All of her siblings are named after Beatles songs. She's Prudence, and so Jude's her brother, and all of them, Ellen. It's very cute and quirky. I like.
Mine was Rainbow Rowell's Wayward Son, which actually
Mhm.
fits into a bunch of categories. I actually had to look up whether it was YA, but it fits. The main characters are teens or early. So in this one, they're actually in college. In the first, this is the second one in her series. The third one is coming out this year, and I'm really excited for it. The first one, they're in high school, and in this one, it's the year after. I am fascinated by this series. I can talk about it for a really long time. It is yeah, so we can really delve into it at a different time or at this time, but I it is in the shortest of short descriptors. The Simon Snow series is essentially Harry Potter-esque. He is the chosen one. There is magic, there is an evil sorcerer, and only Simon can defeat him. And so that's what the previous book is about. And this book, which is called Carry On. Carry On is the first book. And then Wayward Son is what happens afterwards. Like what happens to Simon and the rest of the kids who went through this terrible thing together, and what are their lives like now that he's no longer the chosen one because he's fulfilled his life's destiny and he is 18. Like what happens to you when you're 18 and you're done.
It's an epilogue book.
It is, but it does not feel like an epilogue, but I love that she explored depression and a lack of sense of belonging, and like a dissolving of all of these relationships that were forged in fire. Right, in the previous book, they all become the best of friends because they're in mortal danger, and in this one there is no mortal danger, at least at the beginning, and they stop needing each other in a visceral way, and they are trying to understand why, because so much of their lives was so adrenaline filled, and that part of it is gone. And so now they become adrenaline seekers and like adrenaline junkies, because that is the only how they understand feeling alive. And I love that she, like, it's right for anyone who has ever thought forward through the Harry Potter universe or any of the other chosen storylines. That's what this does. And so the first one I thought was cute, but this one I thought was phenomenal because it delved into all of these issues that that don't, like, right, it's like there is the fade to black at the end and ta-da, everything's wrapped up in a pretty bow, but this is the book after the pretty bow, and it was great. I found it really fascinating. I am really excited for the next one coming out, I want to say in April, and it's called Anyway the Wind Blows, and it is the conclusion of what happens to Simon, who essentially gets to figure out what his destiny is now that he no longer is destined to do something. He's
cool,
like us, kind of.
Yeah, but with magic.
But with magic, in a world where magic is real. Yes. It's lovely. It's
Amazing.
also queer. He's very gay. Well, maybe not very gay. There are times when he's not gay at all. He's just there, but no, it's a it's a gay relationship at the center of it, and it's a tumultuous one and a lovely one because, again, it feels very real, even though they are wizards and there's magic, but their relationship feels very much like it has the bumps of a relationship between two 18-year-olds. So very, very cool.
Awesome. Okay, so we got like 6 more. Let's just like flash through these and not give the whys. Great.
Sure.
Okay, nonfiction. I went for We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. What was yours?
Mine was Shit Actually by Lindy West.
Have you even finished that book?
I don't need to. It's already brilliant. But I am 77% through, so I have like two stories left. Okay. And they're short stories. And yes.
Great. All right. In fantasy, I went with The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. How about you?
Mine was The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, which, for those who don't know, is the first in the Witcher series.
Oh, yes, yes.
That's what that is. Know. Yeah, that's the first book in the Witcher series.
That name, I was like, is that the guy who wrote Daybreakers?
No.
I can't.
No, that's
It just. I, who is that?
well, I think you're talking about wait, Daybreakers. I don't think I've read Daybreakers. Are you talking about Day Watch and Night Watch?
Yes, I am talking
Okay,
about
because
Daywatch and
those are
Nightwatch.
literally right there.
Yeah.
And his name is Sergei Lukyanenko.
Okay. I got my Andre and my Sergeys mixed up. I'm so sorry.
That's totally fine.
All right. I did you have any sci-fi? You didn't write anything down.
I didn't write a sci-fi down. Nothing was truly sci-fi in what I read this year. There was some fantasy and some magic, but no like robot things. I started Murderbot. I just haven't finished it yet, so I'm not in love with it.
It's only like 100 pages.
I know,
100 pages long.
And yet I put it down for other things, so that's why it's not on
rude.
the list. Agreed.
So rude. So I don't know if that is a clue, but Murderbot all the way, Murderbot forever. That's the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. The Exit Strategy is one of those stories that tops my novella short story favorite list. What about you? Favorite short story?
Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera. Yes.
Great.
There's a whole episode of me talking about it, so go see that.
Just go back in our archives and you'll get the full splurge on it. Murderbot was my favorite series of the year. How about you?
So my favorite series is called Curse Breakers by Bridget Kemmerer, and the first one is called A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and the second one is A Heart So something and broken. So and broken. I start and then there's a third one coming out very early next year. A Vow. So oh my gosh, I did not look up these titles. It's terrible. Anyways, it's fascinating. It's fantastic. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling with time travel. It's great.
Oh, so many things.
So many things.
And then lastly, favorite comic of the year.
For me, it was The Wicked and the Divine, partially because I still don't understand a lot of it and I need to reread, but I love the concepts of it. It's so good. There are parts where it was like, wait, it's been so long since I've read the previous volume. I have to go back because what is happening right now? Also, never get attached to a character because chances are they are the next to die. Yep.
I mean, spoiler there. Hot spoiler there. I started Paper Girls by Brian K. Vaughan this year, and that is delightful. It's 80s, but there's aliens, and it's a herd of girls just like trying to get back into the right timeline. It's time travel. There's time travel.
There you go.
So delightful. All right, let's take an intermission, and we're going to come back, and we're going to dive deeper into the books that had the best sex scenes, our best not romances of the year, worst book, and our best in show. So come on back. Oh my goodness, and we're back. While we were on the break, I went and got the other half of the White Russian that got me drunk last night. So, hair of the dog that bit ya. I forgot I put a dash of cinnamon on the top of it. It's quite festive.
That was really good thinking.
Thank you. All right, so we're doing our year in review. You're back with us. We're going to talk, we're going to get a little bit more nitty gritty into some topics. Oh, excuse me, White Russian. We're going to talk best sex scenes, best not a romance, worst book, and best in show. All right, which book had the best sex scenes of the year? Sky.
Oh, you want me to start? Okay, all right, okay. So,
Yeah, drum roll.
for me, that was Harbor by Rebecca Weatherspoon. It is the third in the Beards and Bondage series, and yeah. So it's a book about a threesome. There are two men who are in a relationship with each other, and they're the female character comes in to be their third, or she joins into their. So they've always been polyamorous. She has never been part of a relationship like that before, and she joins them in their three-way and joins their adventure. Not only is it poly, it's also a BDSM, a little bit of bondage. There is
cool.
one of them.
I mean,
is
Beards and Bondage is
the name of the series, right? One of them, one of the men is dom primarily, and the other one is submissive and follows a lot of the rules. There are a lot of rules that they apply to each other in a sexual way. As with a lot of Rebecca Weatherspoon's, a lot of what happened in this book sexually isn't necessarily my personal preference or choice, but the way that she describes it as the needs of these characters, the way that she writes their excitement and desire in these moments is so engaging and so enticing that I absolutely wanted this for them in a and awesome. It drew me in, and so I was reading it, I was like, yeah, this is incredible and it's really hot. And then I came out of my sex reading haze and went, but I'm not interested in any of this. But wait, am I? Should I try this now? Because she laid this out so plainly. So that's why and how, and it was also very, very memorable and very explicit. I have a lot of questions. I had to Google two things, and I think of myself as a person with a lot of knowledge, and I had to Google some stuff.
Look, this is the year I had to Google what pegging was, and now I know.
There you go.
It's just the year of learning things about sex, I guess.
Yes, a little bit. Other people's sex.
Yeah. Just what's out there in the world and broadening those mental horizons.
Yes.
All right. Mine was Mia Sheridan's Archer's Voice. We read this so early on in the year, but I remember being very just pulled into this world. And so the male character is deaf and the female character no sign, and so they have this relationship, but he's not
deaf. His voice
he's not
box.
Deaf. Correct, thank you. Yes, he is non-speaking, he cannot speak, so he signs. So I thought that was a very interesting way for two people just to I don't know, it drew me. I can't remember. I remember that it was steamy to me, and I can't remember the details of why it was steamy to me. But I think it was. I'm a sucker for a sort of broken person. He had a lot of trauma. That draws me in. I don't know. It was. I remember us talking about it in book club, and a lot of people were like, "No, that was too much trauma. I couldn't handle it." But I was like, I liked it. I liked a journey.
Yes. So I feel like the book club as a collective was looking for something stress relieving, and this brought so much previous history into the world that for some people it was difficult to disconnect from all of this sadness and be really stress relieved. I remember my comment about, actually I did not mind the storyline and how heavy the storyline was. I found some other inconsistencies, mostly to do with sign language and the approach to sign language. And then the
Yes.
fact that it was never truly really addressed that the entire town treats him like he's broken just because, or they treat him like he is not intelligent because he can't
Right.
speak, right? Like his disability becomes a mental disability when it isn't at all. He just,
Right, but
his
I
voice
think
box
that's
is just
what
broken.
right, but I think that's what people do.
Agreed.
Like I think
Yes, it was very
people
real.
assign they assign global disability to something that is singular. But you know, at the end, like I know he doesn't become the mayor, but like the
He kind of
town
the town accepts
he,
him. There is a big arc in that.
yes.
No,
Yeah.
my only comment I remember in terms of their sexual interaction was that there was one sex scene that for me required a diagram, because it was on the couch. He was behind her, but he's much taller than her, and she was laying down, but he was kneeling, and I was like, I don't understand how these two go together.
I feel this way with a lot of romance novels. I'm like, oh, she's 5'2" and he's 6'5", and yet the pieces are like the chests can still rub together. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. She's rubbing her boobs on his belly button. That's how that works.
I mean, yeah,
So,
that was exactly it. So, and maybe it was because it was one of the early ones for book club.
yeah.
But that my recollection of that book was that I would, just like you, read more Mia Sheridan. I needed a diagram for that one sex scene on the couch because I do not know how they managed it.
Yeah. And for me, it like, and I think I've said this before, it's about like how much of that story like transported itself into my inner fantasy world. And I lived in that book for longer than I think I do with most other books. I was like, oh, that's some good fantasy fodder right there. So, hey yo, that book. All right. Best in Not a Romance.
So for me, We Should All Be Feminists was that book. Partially because I read it and then immediately wanted to buy a copy for every person I know and just like give them out to strangers.
And then I believe we did that. We each gave
it was the other one. It was not this one. It was to my daughter. It's her other book. It's the purple cover, not the white cover. Yeah, it's the purple cover. So yes. So that we did. So that is, I feel like that is the beginning of the bond when, without discussing it with each other and after not having seen each other for many, many months, we arrived at a cafe and swapped book presents to only reveal that they were the exact same book.
We got each other the same book. So yeah, cemented in book bondage. Heyo.
That's a thing. Possibly. Maybe. There's definitely library books out there. So, I mean, like books about libraries, like romance books about people like in bookstores or libraries. So
yes,
it's a thing.
It's a thing. Mine was, and to no surprise to anyone here, Murderbot Forever. So Murderbot is a series of short stories, though the current book is a full-length novella, and the new book coming out next year, I believe, is also a full-length, not a full-length novella, full-length novel. Next book is also full-length, and it's about Murderbot. That is what they call themselves. They are a security unit, sec unit, for companies that need security. You get to hire your Murderbot, and the Murderbot will, the security unit will protect you. So it starts off, they are with a group of scientists who are exploring a planet that is going to be terraformed, and they get attacked by another company, and so that sets off the whole series. And Murderbot gets essentially freed from their security unit contract and gets to be like a free robot out in the world. But there aren't any free sec units. Those are any like uncontracted sec unit out in the world is clearly going to kill everyone because that's all they do is kill. But not Murderbot. Murderbot just wants to watch TV. They just want to watch TV. and that's it, and be left alone. But they keep getting sucked into different mysteries and having to, get shot at and save people. It's stressful and delightful and so sci-fi, and there's a lot of sassy robots, and I will never stop talking about Murderbot. It's delightful. They are fantastic. When is this TV show happening? All hail Murderbot. Murderbot forever. So,
all right. From that glorious moment, I want to talk about worst book, because I feel like I have a lot more to say about worst book than I do about best book, though maybe that's very, very negative of me. So your book, the book you picked, which I'm going to let you say the title of it in a second, is one that you and I did not read together. So tell me more and why.
All right. So my mother-in-law, who is a wonderful, lovely person, gave me this book for Christmas, maybe my birthday. She gave it as a gift. It just showed up. It's called The Largesse and the Sea Maiden by Dennis Johnson, and it is a book of short stories. And she heard about it on NPR, and she's like, "Oh, this sounds interesting." It was a slog. I had to push so hard to finish this book. But it was on my book stack beside my bed, and at the beginning of quarantine, I was like, I'm going to finish this book stack. There's going to be no books up here. That's a lie. There are still books there. In fact, it's twice as big because people kept lending me stuff. Anywho, back to this. The second story in this book was about an old white man who is unhappy in his marriage, and he just fucking complains through the entire story. And I hated him, and it was so like toxic masculinity. I was just like, I'm tired of you, old white man. I don't need to hear your story anymore. And so anything after that was just tainted by that one story. There was an interesting story about a guy who was in detox rehab in a motel, and he kept writing letters to God or to people as part of his rehab. Like, that's an interesting concept. But again, a white man. I'm just like, I don't care about your stories, white man. Goodbye. How about you?
So for me, the worst book was Beach Read by Emily Henry. And so it was because we jumped into books that are stress relieving and books that are romance. Romance is not or was not a genre in which I was very familiar, and so I relied heavily on sort of Goodreads reviews and what was coming up in all of these lists, right? Like we looked through so many lists to get acquainted with what's trending in the genre, and this book was everywhere. Every list told us that it's going to be a great book, that it's exactly what you need, that it's this like two people with writer's block get stuck in their, like they end up in their houses that happen to be next door to each other, and they make a pact to help each other finish writing their collective books. The cover is two beach towels and two people laying on their beach towels. It seemed like such a chill treat. Super fluffy. Yeah. Like your toes in the sand, sun, like sunscreen smelling sex scenes. None of that is what's in this book. There are sex scenes, but there are really awkward words in those sex scenes. Like she refers to her breasts as her chest, and that he was touching her chest, and I was like, nothing wrong with that, except this was presented as a heteronormative thing. And so it was like, chest? Really? Like, that is like a super unsexy way of describing what's happening during a sex scene where someone who has breasts and is comfortable with them is involved. It was very heavy on personal trauma and things that happened in the past and things that really colored their existence. There was romance, but it was buried deep under layers of things that psychological help is required for. And then there was a bunch of inconsistencies that just made no sense whatsoever. And literally in the final hour, at like 80% into the book, there's a best friend who is completely absentee the rest of the time. And then she shows up, and you're just supposed to trust this best friend with all the knowledge, because they're like the Deus Ex Machina best friend. And My expectations of this book did not match the actual book so significantly. Like, it was such a disparity that it probably wasn't a very bad book. It just was not at all the bill of goods that was sold to me. And I wanted to so desperately to relax and to feel the sand in my toes. And the only time they go to the beach is in the middle of winter and they freeze and there is no toes involved at all because they would fall off because it's below zero.
Yeah. Yes. It was a very misleading cover. So I feel this. I don't hate that book so vehemently, but I was like, why are we reading this? Why did I read this? What? Yeah, and the premise of them like writing each other's genre, like that could have been way cuter.
Or
it was just kind of like half-assed.
It made me so much more tense and so much less relaxed than it was the inverse of where I was trying to go. And it continues to appear on all of these, like, if you love lighthearted romance, check out this book. And I'm like, am I just broken in some way?
Well, it's interesting because you talk about the trauma in that book, but we also talked about how Archer's Voice has a lot of trauma, but I feel like they did that Mia Sheridan did that trauma in a better way. More relatable kind of way.
I think maybe that's what it is that in Archer's Voice, that there is trauma, there's also a really spectacular character arc and really relatable characters. And in Beach Read, I did not care that they were going through something because I did not connect with them. And they were really two-dimensional characters for me. And the only thing
I didn't care about their word counts. Like, word counts didn't matter to me for them. I was like, no.
Right, no, exactly. I was like, I think that this means something to them, but I don't know why the stakes are so high for them. And so I didn't connect to them. Whereas in Archer's Voice, the stakes made a lot of sense. So it was easier to follow.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Best in Show. What books? What other categories made it to the top of your list? The book you're going to recommend that people read for the next year, essentially.
Well, I mean, a lot of these, I'm going to ask people what it is that they're looking for. The book I wrote down for me is The House on the Cerulean Sea. In the Cerulean Sea?
Yes.
Is it on or in?
I think it's, hold on. I got it right here. No, I don't. I got it right here.
Okay.
When the page loads. Here we go. In.
Right. I thought I looked it up. And you had it as on, and then I was like, maybe I'm wrong. So The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It is lovely and wonderful and delightful if you like.
I think it made me cry.
Oh, I cried I cried once because I was scared, once because I was sad, and once because I was so happy that my body did not know how else to express it. It is delightful in every way, and my only, I did not want to leave that world. I did not want that book to end. Even though I loved the way it ended, I was like, great, can we do another story about these people immediately? Can we go back right away?
I feel like I remember saying, this is what happens when Harry Potter is 40. Like, that's what if like Harry Potter never got his letter to Hogwarts and became 40, like, this is what would happen to him.
Except
he would be that main character.
He's also gay, and he's also totally comfortable with that. And there are female characters who have equal power, and it's not weird, and children aren't judged.
Cute children. Yeah. Yes. Ugh. It's so delightful. That whole you're right. That's probably at least top 3, if not number 2 for me. So right on. That book was you're right about the crying, the levels of crying for every version of, oh man. Okay. For me, no surprise, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I will always tell people to read that, especially if you've never read any homosexual romance. Like that, you start there. Just start with a great one and keep going. I think it's a great introduction into the foray. And I didn't really talk about it, but it's a British prince and a president's son who fall in love and have to, battle the expectations of being in the spotlight, but also wanting to be together, but also living across an ocean. And just delightful. Just delightful.
And being one of them is gay, the other one is bi, and being in
That's true.
the public eye. It has one of my favorite lines of all time in it. And so
Wow.
So it's a good line. It's a very good line. It's the first time that they're naked together, and the prince is standing at the end of the bed, and the son looks at him like fully nude, standing in front of him, and he thinks to himself, how could I ever thought myself straight? And I was like, that's perfect. This makes perfect sense. Like, this moment makes so much sense. Yeah. Because he's drooling and he's like, wait, I thought I was straight. Yeah. And this is my reaction to this nude man. It was such a joyful, like, self-discovery, or just self-affirmation. It wasn't really a discovery because by this point they've discovered, but just this lovely self-affirmation.
So good. Oh, so that's it. That's the list, man. That's everything. What was your favorite book of the year? Come tell us. Slide onto all of our socials. We want to hear from you. What are you gonna read next, Guy?
What did I tell you? Did I tell you?
You didn't tell me. I have no clue.
I didn't prep this. Goodness. So I'm going to read I'm going to finish reading How to Fail at Flirting. I started it and then set it aside because I got Shet actually from the library. So I am racing through that book before my library loan expires. And then I'm going to go back to How to Fail at Flirting because we're actually going to do a whole episode on How to Fail at Flirting. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah, and then I think I'm supposed to be reading Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon for book club, a book I chose for book club, but I am not sure that that's gonna happen for our next book club meeting. Which I know you have the arc of it, and I have the digital copy of that book, so I'm very excited to read it as well. Don't know that I'm gonna get to it right away, considering that I have other plans right this second. What about you?
Other plans. Before pandemic, I started Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and it was so effing beautiful. This book is so incredible. It's a book. It's basically an ode to book lovers. Like, you ever wanted to be like a secret librarian that protects books? Like, this is that book. And quarantine hit, and I put it down, and I'm gonna try and pick it back up and read it. And then I am going to try and read Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. I've been pushing my library book for that version. I've had it on hold essentially for months, and it just has never come up. But I'm very excited to read The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which comes out in January. So I want to have one of her books under my belt going into that one to just kind of, have some roundedness of her world and her writing. So the second half of Starless Sea, and then Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, which is a YA, should move pretty quickly, as they always do.
So I read The Starless Sea at the end of last year, and I've been waiting for you to finish reading this book so we can talk about it, because the level of geekdom, the complexity of this world, I need to talk to you about this book so badly, and I've been holding onto all of those marbles this whole time. And I'm so sorry. No, it's fine. Take your time. I completely understand. But I just need you to know that when you are done, I will pounce on you with all the thoughts.
Amazing.
They've been sitting there for a while, but this book, so I loved The Night Circus, and I think about it
Mm-hmm.
all, like I come back to it all the time. So this going into the Starless Sea, I sort of had that expectation of these beautiful like magical realism, fabulism things that she does, and this surpass like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so pretty. It is
Yeah.
so pretty.
The like interim story about the room where people just come and leave things and they rearrange this little town vignette place. Ugh.
The
Ugh.
paper town,
So cool.
yes, the paper town.
The paper
So
town.
much of it, like there's so much cool stuff, and all of these stories tie together, and the way they tie together, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this yeah. Mhm, mhm.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. Okay.
I'm
All right.
trying so hard to not tell you about it.
Excellent. Okay, give it a little bit more time. Also, I would like to, for the people watching, I feel like I look like Princess Leia with these
I was
headphones
gonna
and this
tell
white.
you that. I was gonna tell you that now
Mm.
that you've wrapped the shawl around,
Yeah.
you have a cosplay moment happening.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. All right. All right. Okay. So, that's it. That's this year. Oh my God, we've gotten through 2020. Um, any thoughts? Any thoughts about 2020?
Well,
Sky.
I do. I mean, I mean, obviously, I have a bunch of thoughts. Clearly, here are my 2 cents on the things that happened this year that were massively unexpected to me in a good way, right? The fact that we're all in our respective houses and all of that. Those are the facts of life for most of us. But the things that were unexpected to me was uh I've done a lot of personal discovery time.
Mm-hmm.
I've become much more aware of the things that I did because I was just doing them. The stuff that was just me coasting, and the stuff that I was doing because I wanted to see the next step in that project, and sort of valuing and leveling out the playing field for myself in terms of the things that I have to do and the things that I want to do, and how to show up for myself and how to speak up for myself in certain situations, and then most specifically how to uh do what I teach rather than teach personal growth and then not actually participate in personal growth. And so it feels like there's a lot of that. Yeah, I feel like I've learned to show up for others emotionally a lot more, not just show up in a room because I physically couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
but show up with an open heart and an invitation for other people to share. Hopefully, right? Like that's really presumptive of me. I've showed up for you, ta-da! But
Please give me something. My heart is open.
exactly, that seems very presumptive. But
Sure.
I have made a more concerted effort to not just to listen but to hear. And
Mm.
I mean, this happened. Our
Yeah.
Booklandia happened. Our book happened. Showing up to see you all the time happened in a way that is different from the way that we used to connect. Uh,
Yeah.
Good different, not bad different in any sort of way, right? Like our relationship has changed significantly, and it was pushed to do so partially because we are in these circumstances and we can't constantly meet in a way that we used to or spend time in the way that we used to. So that change, that transition is significant and different, and I don't know that it would have happened were it not for this year.
I completely 100% agree. I have learned more about myself in this year than I think I've probably done in the 30 plus years I've been on this earth. I think this year and the year I was 17 are the two most like formative personal growth years. I, I've come to the realization that me and my doctor came to the realization that I'm probably mildly depressed, whether or not it's this pandemic depression, or I've had some lingering stuff going on since I was 17. I have felt emotions so much stronger this year and have coped with them and embraced them and invited them more than I think I used to. And then I also realized how much I value working. I'm definitely a self-described like sloth. Like if I could not work and just read a book in a sunny patch of like light like a house cat all day, that's my dream. But I think that's what I want. That's not what I need. I need to go to a job where I have value. And I think I've kind of come to the realization that I scale my self-worth based off of that. And that's, it's been a process to not have those sort of qualifiers in my life. And so it's been a journey, and I'm glad that this year is over, and I'm for sure popping a bottle of something bubbly on December 31st because it can only go up from here. I'm really excited to just keep moving forward and keep exploring all these sort of major life moments that we've had in 1 year.
It has been all in 1 year.
It's all in 1 year. And for sure, our friendship, the development and the growth of our friendship has been the brightest light. Like just showing up with you twice a week to talk about our book or talk about other people's books, and or to just like bitch about whatever's happening, like that has mattered more than you can know. So thank you very much for showing up with your open heart, because I know I threw some shit in there.
Well, thank you right back. I know, right? What is even happening?
How dare we be sentimental? I have a robot heart and you're the nihilist. Jeez.
Right?
Oh man. Okay. I love you. Let's GTFO and go have Christmas Eve. What do you say?
That sounds great. To those who celebrate, a happy Christmas Eve and a Merry Christmas. And to everybody else, happy holidays. We will see you in the next year. Join us on our socials so that you can know when the next episode is coming out. We're skipping next Thursday because it's New Year's Eve, and as you just heard, we are definitely drinking, and that is okay to ring in the new year. For those who don't know, New Year's is my favorite holiday, so I cannot wait. I am so excited, even though it will just be me really celebrating it, but it'll be great. Yes, so follow us on Instagram at l.skyford, on Twitter at skyfordl, and on Twitch or YouTube for the video of this episode. Thank you all so much, and we will see you in 2021.
See you in 2021. Meow, meow, meow. Runtime was 1 hour, 13 minutes.